What is it about baking that helps alleviate all of my stress? Can't figure it out. People ask me all the time, like, how do you have time with 7 kids to be cooking or baking or whatever? And it's the one thing I have that helps me to take some of the hard things in life and put them away so I can just focus on something else for a minute. So today I made pitas. Not pita, the boy with the bread, but pita bread for our dinner, and it was so good. I'm never buying store-bought pitas again. They were so easy and so delicious, and I was having a really rotten day, and making the pitas made it all better. So, um, so what is it about baking and cooking and experimenting in the kitchen? What is it about those things that make everything better? You guys tell me. How did I make them? Well, I made them by putting yeast and water and sugar and flour in a bowl and letting it be for a few minutes. And then I put more flour and a little bit of salt and oil in, and then I kneaded it and let it rest. I think this is the key, actually, to making these suckers, because you knead it and then you let it rest for a few minutes, and then you knead it again, and then you let it rise, and then you deflate them, roll them into balls, and then let them rest again. I think it's the rest time, because these puppies were delicious. So I made cherry crisp earlier this week. I was stress baking because we put our house on the market in Henderson. We've been talking back and forth since Mylan's diagnosis in September. What are we gonna do? Do we stay up in Utah, or do we travel? Do we move back into our home and just travel back and forth for Mylan's appointments? And so just back and forth for months. And we had made the decision to list the house back in March, and we started working on that. And then in April, the day after Easter, Mylan was readmitted to the hospital. He'd relapsed, and so everything with our housing situation was put on hold. So he's out of the hospital now, and are you feeling a little bit better?
I'm feeling awful.
He's feeling pretty awful, actually. He's got a cold right now. But we've talked to the doctor, and she's advised we stay quite close indefinitely. So, with that in mind, we officially made the decision to list the house, and so that's been listed, and that's been really difficult for me because that's the house I brought all my babies home to. We lived there for 11 years, almost 12. Well, I mean, I lived there actually exactly 11 years. And then I've been up here taking care of Mylan. But we've owned the house now almost 12 years. And we both grew up in Henderson. So it's very difficult for me to accept that we're moving up here permanently. And it's, I think the hardest part, one of the hardest parts, is trying to find a house up here in our budget. Like that's really tricky with the housing market right now being what it is, and and interest rates being what they are. It's proving to be a challenge. So, all that to say, I've been baking my feelings away all week. um, so, uh, so I made the pitas tonight, and that helped a little. Dinner was actually really good. I make gyros for the kids a lot. That's one meal I make that they don't. I don't have to fight them to eat, and it's a miracle. It's like my miracle meal, and I make it for them often. And they're like 20-minute gyros, and you grab a store-bought pita bread, and you use deli roast beef, and you cut it up, and then you saute it with some lemon pepper and Worcestershire sauce, and you make homemade tzatziki, and it's like 20 minutes. My kids will eat it, no problem. They love that meal. But every once in a while, when I'm feeling fancy, I'll make chicken shawarma, and I'll marinate it and um, cook it all up fancy and nice. And this time I made that and the homemade pitas. And then instead of regular tzatziki, because I didn't have dill or cucumbers, I think I had cucumbers, but we did a mint yogurt sauce instead, and it was really good. So I always forget. Like, I make it for them all the time, and it's one thing they never fight me on to eat, and then I'll like forget about it, and I'll put it kind of on the back burner for a couple like a month or two, and then I pull it back out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my kids love this, and nobody's complaining about what we're eating. And so then I'll make it for a couple weeks, and then I'll forget about it again. So I need to put it into the meal rotation more often. So I'm gonna try and make some menu plans for the summer, and then what I'd like to do is rotate through. So you make, 3 or 4 weeks of meal plans, and then you just reuse those same meal plans. Has anybody tried that before? Is that a terrible idea? Do your families get really sick of your recipes, or is it something they like? I have a lot of picky eaters right now. I have, well, not a lot of them, but they're very vocal. So it sure seems like a lot. Of my 7 kids, 6 are eating food. One is not. She's only 3 months old. So of my 6 eaters, 2 of them complain quite loudly if it's something they don't like. So, and then I have one I think might have a couple allergies. So some of our meal times can be tricky. So I'm trying to simplify my life a little, and I think planning meals will help with that. So anyway, stress baking, house listing, meal planning. That's what's on my mind today. Oh, and I was gonna say something I'm thankful for every day. Today I'm thankful. I'm really thankful for this meal that we had. That I literally didn't have one single child complain about what we were eating, and that to me is a miracle. So I am so thankful for that miracle. So yeah, that's what I'm thankful for today.